Prepare for live stream. Setting up your meeting. This live. Bismillah. And yes, we are live on YouTube, I guess. Shahzeb and Sarah. Kindly tell everyone to join us. और जो लोग हमें YouTube पे देख रहे हैं, काइंडली अपने जितने फ्रेंड सर्कल है, आपका क्लास सर्कल है, काइंडली इस वीडियो को वहां पर आप फॉरवर्ड कर दें. So this is the start of Multiomics YouTube channel with the name of Allah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So okay, so ma'am is here. Okay, I think आप लिंक सर्कुलेट कर दें साले वकार हर जगह एंड आई एम गोइंग ऑफ. जी हलीमा, यू कैन कंटिन्यू.
Okay, I'll start now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're all doing well. On the behalf of Multiomics, I, Halima Nadeem, your host for the day, and I extend a very warm and hearty welcome to each one of you here. Well, first most, I would like to thank you all for taking time out from your heavy schedules and being here. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's begin the session with a few verses of Holy Quran. For that, I would like Rashida, please recite the few verses of Holy Quran. Thank you.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. शुरू अल्लाह के नाम से. मैं अल्लाह से पनाह मांगती हूँ शैतानिर रजीम. शुरू अल्लाह के नाम से जो नहायत मेहरबान और रहम फरमाने वाला है. इज़ा जाअ नस्रुल्लाहि वल फथ वरअयतन नास यदखुलूना फी दीनिल्लाहि अफ़वाजा फसब्बिह बिहम्दि रब्बिका वस्तग़फिर इन्नहु काना तव्वाबा. जब अल्लाह की मदद और फतह आप पहुँचे और आप लोगों को देख ले कि वो अल्लाह के दीन में जौक दर जौक दाखिल हो रहे हैं, तो आप अपने रब की हमद के साथ तस्बीह फरमाएं और उससे इस्तग़फ़ार करें. बेशक वो बड़ा ही तौबा कबूल फरमाने वाला है. जज़ाकल्लाह खैरा.
Jazakallah. I'll again welcome you all to the webinar, first day of webinar on scholarship arranged by Multiomics. Before going ahead, I would like to invite CEO of Multiomics, Mr. Junaid Iqbal, for the official ceremony of today's webinar. Sir, it will be our pleasure to listen to your words.
Thank you everyone जो लोग हमें देख रहे हैं. I think कुछ लोग अभी भी कनेक्ट कर रहे हैं. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, मल्टीओमिक्स का हमेशा से इनिशिएटिव रहा है कि हम यूथ के लिए कुछ करें. हम जो हमारी नौजवान नस्ल कुछ करना चाहती है उनके लिए कुछ करें. उसमें एक सबसे बड़ा जो एक फैक्टर है, जो बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हमें आते हैं इनबॉक्स में कि हमने फॉरेन स्कॉलरशिप कैसे लें, हम बाहर कैसे जाएं, हमें आइल्स के बारे में कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन देने वाला नहीं है, हमें जीआरई के बारे में कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन देने वाला नहीं. हमें कोई एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म चाहिए जहां से हम फॉरेन स्कॉलरशिप्स के ऊपर कोई आइडिया हासिल कर सकते हैं. हमें बहुत सारे लोग गाइड करते हैं, फिर वो आगे से कुछ ऐसे भी फर्म्स हैं जो आपसे पैसे मांग रही होती हैं और कई दफा स्कैम्स हो रहे होते हैं हमारे साथ. तो हम कहाँ से जाके पूछें, हम कहाँ से जाके इसके बारे में काउंसलिंग लें? तो उसके लिए एक सबसे अच्छा जो हमारे पास सोर्स है वो हमारे ऐसे टीचर्स हैं, हमारे ऐसे उस्ताद कराम हैं जो खुद जिन्होंने ऐसी स्कॉलरशिप पे अवेल किया है, चाहे उन्होंने अपनी मेरिट स्कॉलरशिप I'm really sorry I was disconnected. जी, so I was saying like हमारे पास ऐसे एक ही सोर्स है, वो है हमारे टीचर्स जो खुद स्कॉलरशिप डिफरेंट अवेल करके, मेरिट स्कॉलरशिप अवेल करके, कोई भी स्कॉलरशिप अवेल करके बाहर गए, वहाँ उन्होंने स्टडी की, वहाँ नॉलेज हासिल की, अपने कल्चर को प्रमोट किया और फिर वो वापस पाकिस्तान आए. ठीक है, वो वहाँ के होके नहीं रह गए, वो वापस आए पाकिस्तान. उन्होंने जो भी नॉलेज हासिल किया था वो आज अपने स्टूडेंट्स को वो दे रहे हैं. आज वो उनको बता रहे हैं, उनको पढ़ा रहे हैं और उनको वो ज़्यादा फैसिलिटीज़ यहाँ पर प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, अपना नॉलेज प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, अपना टाइम दे रहे हैं, और वही हमारा जो असल सोर्स है जो हमें बता सकते हैं कि बेसिकली हमने उस पाथ पे कैसे चलना है, जिस पाथ के जरिए वो वहाँ पर गए और वो बाद में सक्सेसफुल होकर वापस और वो पाकिस्तान को डिलीवर कर रहे हैं। तो उसके लिए फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल थैंक्स टू डॉक्टर रमला, जिन्होंने खुद इस चीज़ को इनिशिएट किया जब हमारा लास्ट सेशन हुआ था कोविड-19 पे। सो शी आस्क्ड मी कि मैं इस पे करवाना चाहती हूँ सेशन, ताकि बच्चों को इसके बारे में ज़्यादा अवेयरनेस, उनको पता लगे, वो किसी फेक स्कैम की तरफ ना जाएं, ऐसे पैसे अपने इन्वेस्ट ना करें ऐसी जगह पर जहाँ पे बाद में उनको नुकसान हो, बल्कि मैं उनको गाइड करूंगी अबाउट व्हाट द हाउ यू गेट द स्कॉलरशिप्स, आइट्स वगैरह। तो थैंक यू सो मच मैम कि उन्होंने टाइम दिया, और होपफुली जो हमारा 3 दिन का वेबिनार है, जितने लोग भी इसको देख रहे हैं वो सीखेंगे, और सीखने के बाद इंशाल्लाह उनमें से लोग बाहर जाएंगे और अगेन वो वापस आएंगे, वो पाकिस्तान को सर्व करेंगे, और फिर उनकी गाइडेंस में लोग आगे से आगे बढ़ते जाएंगे, और ये एक चेन चलती रहेगी इंशाल्लाह। थैंक यू सो मच हलीमा।
Thank you so much, sir, for your words. So for foreign scholarship, there are certain requirements. And in today's webinar, we'll discuss one of the most important requirements for scholarship, that is IELTS and GRE. So basically, I just want to give you a little bit introduction for those who don't know what is IELTS and GRE. So IELTS are International English Testing System, and GRE is the Graduate Record Examination. So in today's webinar, we'll discuss minimum scores, maximum scores of these two tests, validity, and each and everything in detail. For that, I'm so honored and privileged to have over today's guest, Dr. Ramla Shahid. Dr. Ramla Shahid did her PhD in chemical biology from Cambridge University, United Kingdom. She is currently serving as an assistant professor in the Department of Biosciences at COMSATS Institute of Information and Technology, Islamabad. Her areas of interest are molecular biology and chemical biology. She has been teaching for almost 10 years at MS and PhD level. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramla, for your precious time, and welcome to first day of scholarship webinar organized by Multiomics.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Okay, without any further delay, let's get started. But just a reminder, if you guys have any question during the webinar, just write them down on the chat box. We'll discuss them too if you got time. Thank you so much. So I'm going to start this webinar by asking my first question. That is, ma'am, before going to further details, just give the intro of these two tests. What are these tests and their eligibility, and what is the best time to apply for these tests?
Okay, so जैसे आपने start में भी थोड़ा सा बताया कि जो IELTS है, that's International English Language Testing Service है, system है उसका, और जो GRE है, that's Graduate Record Examination. So the thing is that because each country has their own education system, their own grading system. So when you're applying across the country, it's very difficult for them to understand that how your country was grading the students, and to just assess that where that student actually stands. ठीक है, जैसे हमारा merit list बन ठीक है. So you in Pakistan we usually have the combination of your school, I mean high school, which is FSC and metric, and then they combine that marks, and then they create a kind of merit. But if you're applying, let's say in Italy or in some other country, obviously their education system is totally different. Their grading system is totally different. So it's very difficult for them to assess that where do you stand according to their system. So these kind of tests actually give them a kind of like a universal or international grading idea for them. The IELTS is just about the English language. So if you're applying to UK or Europe, they mostly rely on that English language test, because the IELTS has actually 4 parts. So they assess your listening capacity. So in that part of test, they will just play a tape or let you listen to a brief introduction or a brief description of something, and then you'll be asked certain questions, for which the answers were given in that जो भी recording with your language. So then they assess that are you able to understand the English language. Then there is a writing. So then there will be different topics you'll have to write on it. Then they have a reading. So comprehension, we all have done that you read a comprehension and then you answer that question according to that. And then the 4th part is the speaking one, where you have to speak. So because IELTS also have, now they have introduced a computer-based and the paper-based. So both are there. Mostly if you prefer the computer-based, so then they'll record, they'll give you a topic and they'll ask you to speak on it, and then they'll record and then they assess. So IELTS is exclusively language, English language. But most of the UK universities, they will not ask you to provide a GRE score. They will only ask you to provide an IELTS score, okay? And most of the European universities as well. So what I know is that France, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, they will not ask you to provide a GRE score. They would rather ask you to provide an IELTS score, because they assume that if you can communicate, and English is not our first language, so if you're able to communicate, you're understanding the language, and you are able to read and speak in English, that actually already tells a lot about the person's intellectual ability, because that's totally altogether a different language and we are expressing in that language. So, you know, and the other thing which is more important for UK mainly, because I have studied there, but across the Europe as well. They think that if you can speak their language, then you'll be able to integrate into their environment, into their community. So they don't want you to be alienated over there. So they think that it's important that if the person is coming from another culture or from another country, they can communicate with the people in that country. So that's why most of the universities will ask you to provide an IELTS score. Okay. On the other hand, in the US, they would accept IELTS, but there is a parallel kind of course, a testing service, which is called TOEFL. TOEFL is a similar way as IELTS, and it's only the language, English language testing service, okay? And they probably have the scores, they have 120 marks, IELTS में bands होते हैं, अब मैं explain करती हूँ। पहले मैं थोड़ा सा ये GRE और IELTS के बारे में बताती हूँ। The GRE or the, yeah, so GRE or जो GRE है, that's a more comprehensive test, because GRE has 3 parts. One is they call verbal reasoning, then you have analytical reasoning, and then you have quantitative reasoning. Okay, so jo verbal reasoning hai, that's more of language, kind of like an English part. So like they'll give you comprehension and they'll ask you to read and then answer the question, or sometimes they give you a comprehension with where there are blanks and then they ask you to put the appropriate word. So it's more like a language part, but that's just 1/3 part. Then you have analytical reasoning, which is like they'll give you a situation and then they'll ask you to answer that. For example, the questions usually are like, if 3 people are going up the stair, the first one reached there, started late or at 9 o'clock, and the second one started at 5 minutes past 9 o'clock, and then it took 3 minutes, so who reached there first? So it's kind of like analytical reasoning where you have to think that what's the answer. And then you have quantitative part, which is more like a mathematical part. So there you have to, we have a numerical understanding or basic math understanding. Now, because GRE also is 2 types, a general one and a subject one. So the general one है, उसका pattern वही है जो भी मैंने आपको बताया. So you have to have a good command on English language, obviously able to read and understand a little complicated thing and then dig out the answer, and a basic math skill as well. So GRE is basically a comprehensive kind of test. IELTS and TOEFL are language based. The UK and Europe usually don't ask for GRE. They ask for IELTS score. The US, I think it's a must in US university that you present a GRE score. I think you also asked about the best time. What is the time to take the test? I think these tests are available throughout the year. The GRE, you can go to ETS site, and there you can book a date. So there are dates available. आप अपनी जो भी आसानी है उसके हिसाब से आप date book कर सकते हो. So the test, and similarly for IELTS as well. So IELTS के लिए आपको British Council की website पे जाना पड़ेगा, और GRE के लिए आपको ETS की website पे जाना पड़ेगा. And you can book, the dates are available throughout the year. But now what is the best time for you? The best time for you is when you are ready to apply to a university, when the admissions are open, okay? So most of the admissions work in a way in UK, I mean in Europe and US both, you have to plan a year ahead. For example, if you are finishing in this year, you should start applying, because whatever the admission process in those universities start a year before the academic year starts. So to 2020 2022 के जो सेशन स्टार्ट होने हैं उसके जो एडमिशन्स हैं वो सितंबर में ओपन होंगे, दिसंबर में क्लोज हो जाएंगे, मार्च अप्रैल तक वो फाइनली इन्फॉर्म करते हैं, इंटीमेट करते हैं, and then in September 22 you'll start. So that's what I'm saying, that you have to have a year ahead planning. So at the time of admission, you should have the results, you should have the score. So the best time would be the summer, this summer, June, July, August, because September, most of the universities either have deadlines in September, October. That's going to vary, okay? That's going to vary, and you have to go on the universities, or you have to see which country you want to go and what is the general deadline for them. But most of the universities have their deadline by the end of the year, and usually they start, I mean, their admissions open by the end of the summer for the next year. So the best time I would say would be in the summer. So you prepare for it, you attempt the test, you have the score, and by the time the admission opens in September or October, you have the score to present that. So was there any other question related to that?
No, ma'am. Thank you so much. My next question is that is the most frequently asked question. That is, for how long are the test scores valid?
Right. So IELTS stays valid for 2 years. GRE stays valid for 5 years. So IELTS का score 2 साल बाद invalid हो जाएगा. GRE का score 5 साल तक रहता है. But again, if the score is not what you wanted to, you can attempt again. There's no limit that how many times you can attempt, because they actually charge you quite heavy fee. So you want to pay them again, they're happy to take it. So there's no limit of how many times you can attempt. You can attempt as many times as you want. And the score is also specific to different universities. For example, I can explain you with reference to the UK, just to explain things. The Cambridge and Oxford. So IELTS have 9 bands. So maximum you can score is 9. But the Oxford and Cambridge have the minimum requirement of 7. Sorry. So Oxford and Cambridge have the minimum requirement of 7.5 bands. Okay. But Manchester and Leeds University probably will accept the 6 band. So depending on the ranking of the university, they usually have different requirements for the score. The top-notch university will ask you 7.5, 8 band, and the other universities which are not that high ranked, but universities in Europe and USA are all good universities. But some of the university will accept the 6th one as well. Some of the university also have the subject-wise requirement as well. For example, they could have a different requirement for MBA, and they could have a different requirement for BS in chemistry and biology. So you really have to go to the university where you want to apply and look for their requirement for their programs. And for that, you don't need any guidance from anyone. You can do that search. This is a very basic search. You can go and search out for yourself. क्योंकि ये यूनिवर्सिटी की जो एकेडमिक रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं ये बहुत क्लियरली उनकी वेबसाइट्स पे मेंशन होती हैं, या उनके जो एडमिशन प्रॉस्पेक्ट्स हैं या एडमिशन पैक है उस पर बहुत क्लियरली मेंशन होता है कि यू नीड दिस. So I would suggest that if you are willing or if you want to go abroad, then take your time, don't rush it, okay? So first figure out the couple of or 2-3 universities where you want to apply, and then look for their academic requirements and see what score do they require. And according to that, you should work till that score. IELTS, I think below 5 probably is not a good score. And below 5, they probably no university will accept that, or they will ask you to repeat it. But if you are above 5 and 6 to 7 or 7.5, a 6 and above is a good score. 5 probably is acceptable in certain universities, but 6 plus would be a good score. Similarly, TOEFL maybe, uske 120 points in. So if you are above than 75 percentile, that would be a good score. But again, in US as well, the GRE ke score ke saath bhi yahi hai. Every university have a different requirement, and the same university could have a different requirement for different departments. So you really have to go and look for the university and the department and their admission requirement, and you'll exactly know what score you required.
Okay, ma'am. And you have any idea that what is the price of both these tests, IELTS and GRE?
Yes, I actually just checked up. When I did, it was very low, but because of, I think, the dollar exchange rate, the price has really hiked. So what I just figured out for GRE, it's $205. So what I converted, it's roughly around 45,000. And for IELTS, it's 33,000. So that's actually quite a lot of money. So that's why I said that don't rush it. And you have to really plan it. कि आप कब attempt करना चाहते हो. You should prepare for it and then go for it, because that's quite a lot of money to spend on themselves.
So, ma'am, is it possible to take the GRE or IELTS more than one time?
Yes.
If we take one more time, what happened with the scores? Are the best ones accepted?
Yes, but no, I think it's totally up to you. For example, if you have taken IELTS 2 times, so one time you got 7 and the other time something happened and you fell back into 6.5. Because the 7 one is valid for 2 years, you can present that. So you can present whichever you want. अगर आपने बाद में दिया है वो अच्छा स्कोर है तो वो आप present कर सकते हो. So because वो present आपने करना है. ठीक है? University will ask you to provide because they'll give you a certificate. They will give you a result card properly for that test. So you can send that result card to the university. और वो नहीं होता टेस्ट पर्सन के जो हैं वो उसमें पहले टेस्ट में इतने मार्क्स हैं दूसरे टेस्ट में इतने मार्क्स हैं. नो. Same goes for GRE. अगर आपका पहले स्कोर अच्छा नहीं है आप और अटेम्प्ट करना चाहते हो, you can. But again, you can present whichever score is that, and the number of time is not a limit at all. So you can attempt multiple times, as many times as you want.
So मैम कुछ ऐसी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ हैं जो IELTS एंड GRE के बगैर भी एडमिशन दे रही हैं, स्कॉलरशिप दे रही हैं, जस्ट इंटरव्यू की बेस पे या आपके एकेडमिक रिकॉर्ड की बेस पे?
Yes. So what I know from US asks for GRE. US में यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में GRE जो है वो ज़रूरी है. Only very few universities हैं कि जो GRE के बगैर. If you go on the HEC website, so HEC had a collaboration with the US Department of Education under the title of Knowledge Corridor. So in that Knowledge Corridor, they had a MOU signed with a different university, जहाँ पे जो fee थी वो exempt हो रही थी. Either the government of Pakistan was paying or the university was exempting the students for that. But उसमें ये था कि that's not a fully funded scholarship. उसमें आपको जो अपने personal expenses हैं वो bear करने पड़ेंगे. But at least you won't have to pay a university fee. If you go on the HEC website and look for that Knowledge Corridor scholarships, they also have the list of the universities which do not require the GRE. Okay. So yes, there will be some universities which will not require the GRE, but obviously the ranking of those universities probably won't be that high. जितनी high rank universities हैं उन सब के programs की requirement GRE है in US. In Europe, they do not ask for GRE in general, but they will ask for IELTS. But again, there will be some universities which will not ask for IELTS, but again, the ranking will not be that high. So that depends on the circumstances of every person. So this is again, depending on your situation, your circumstances, your preferences, you can take a decision accordingly. But very few in US and very few in UK, which will exempt that. Just based on your academic career, they will accept that.
ओके मैम। मैम ग्रीक जो टेस्ट है इसमें डिफरेंट पार्ट्स होते हैं, ठीक है? तो जो मैथ का क्वेश्चन होता है उसमें क्वेश्चंस कैसे आते हैं, लाइक बहुत बेसिक या किस लेवल के क्वेश्चंस होते हैं?
यस इसमें उसमें बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड मैथ नहीं होगा, बहुत सिंपल सा मैथ होगा, बेसिक। आई थिंक इफ यू हैव डन दैट इन मैट्रिक एंड हाई स्कूल सो यू विल बी एबल टू अटेम्प्ट दैट, ठीक है? अगर आपने मैट्रिक एफएससी में मैथ पढ़ा हुआ है, एफएससी में नहीं सॉरी मैट्रिक में अगर आपने मैथ पढ़ा हुआ है तो यू विल बी एबल टू। उसके लिए I haven't I don't know about any other book, but I know one Barron's GRE जो गाइड बुक है। इसके अलावा अगर आप GRE की वेबसाइट पे भी जाओ तो वहाँ पे सैम्पल टेस्ट पेपर पड़े होते हैं, ठीक है? सो इंस्टेड आप दैट्स वेरी ऑथेंटिक वन, दैट्स द लेटेस्ट वन, द पैटर्न, सब कुछ आप वहाँ से देख सकते हो। इसके अलावा जो बुक्स हैं अवेलेबल, बैरन की है प्रॉब्ली GRE प्रिपेयर एग्जाम। सो उसमें मैथ का हायर लेवल वो नहीं है, बिकॉज अगेन जैसे मैंने बताया कि GRE इज ऑल्सो ऑफ 2 टाइप्स, जनरल एंड सब्जेक्ट वाइज। सो जो जनरल है, दिस इज to assess the ability of the student, the basic ability of the student. It's not a subject specialist test. Yes, जो subject specialist test है उसमें the level will be different. उसमें subjects wise test ज़्यादा जो questions होंगे वो ज़्यादा होंगे, लेकिन इसमें just the basic level. I think if you have done that in high school, metric में अगर आपने किया हुआ, you'll be able to understand that and you'll be able to do that. So it's not very complicated. मतलब वो equation solving kind of questions नहीं है, simple kind of questions होंगे जिसमें कि थोड़ी सी आपको mental ability चाहिए होगी how to solve this, ठीक है?
ओके मैम। मैम व्हाट इफ अगर कोई अपना टेस्ट की डेट या लोकेशन चेंज करवाना चाहे तो क्या उसे डायरेक्ट ब्रिटिश काउंसिल से कांटेक्ट करना पड़ेगा या किस तरह प्रोसेस होगा?
Yes. So I think when you sign up for that, they tell you that if you have signed up for 20th June, then you can change the date till 16th June or 17th June, or you can change the venue, or you can drop out and then you can reschedule your test. But they all have deadlines for that. So when you book a date, be watchful of those deadlines as well. Because if you have passed that deadline and somehow you are unable to appear in that exam, the fees is gone. आप उसको reschedule नहीं कर पाओगे। So जिस वक्त आप टेस्ट बुक कर रहे होते हो वो उसी टाइम पे आपको वो सब डिटेल्स बता देंगे कि जी आपने 3 दिन पहले तक आप चेंज डेट कर सकते हैं या विदहोल्ड कर सकते हैं या लोकेशन चेंज कर सकते हैं, टाइम चेंज कर सकते हैं। But after that we won't be able to manage because obviously they'll have to adjust you to a second batch, so they also need time to move you. So उसमें थोड़ा सा आपको खुद ध्यान देना पड़ेगा कि वो जो भी इस टाइम पे आपको dates वगैरह बता रहे हैं, be watchful of that, and if on those dates you'll be able to change. But if those dates have passed, then you won't be able to change. So फिर you have to turn up. अगर आप नहीं turn up कर रहे, आप नहीं जा रहे उस एग्जाम में, तो the fees is gone. फिर आपको resubmit करके reschedule दोबारा से सारा प्रोसेस करना।
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, just give introduction of personal statement. What is personal statement?
Yeah, okay. So most of time जो scholarship जब आप apply करते हो या admission के लिए apply करते हो, तो they ask for your personal statement. The thing is, it's very important for them to know you, that where you come from, what have you done, how is your life, what's your approach. So basically, you have to tell about your story. That like I can tell that I come from a very a family where my dad was very supportive for their girls' education. So he always pushed me कि आपने बहुत higher level पे जाना है, and he would just cut the scholarship ads from the paper and will give it to me कि यहाँ apply करो, यहाँ apply करो. So this is a story which is very personal to me, which explains where I come from, मेरा background क्या था, फिर how I did in school and how good I was. फिर इसी तरह से बहुत से बच्चों से मैं कुछ बच्चों को जब मैंने पर्सनली गाइड किया, some of the students were from very far-flung areas where they did not have access to internet, and still they made up. They worked really hard and then reached to a level जो कि शायद उनके गांव में कोई नहीं सोच सकता था कि कोई बच्ची वहां तक जाए. This is what your personal statement is. This is what your story is. This is what your strength is. And then if you have any academic highlights, for example, you were part of a debating team, you were part of any NGO, you were helping the society and stuff. So just express what your personality is, what your approach is towards. That tells a lot about it. For example, if you've been doing some social works with an NGO, you have done some internship somewhere, that tells that what kind of experience you had, you have interacted with the people, and that explains your personality. Because when these universities they give you a scholarship or they give you admission, one thing which is crucial to them is that the social interaction of yours, because they want that their people also get the exposure to different culture and the people from different countries. So they would like to have a person who have a holistic approach kind of thing, who's, who can interact with the society as well, who can interact with his friends, who can make new friends over there, and they also get to learn from you about your culture, about your country and stuff. So uske liye jo personal statement hai, that's basically explaining who you are, where you come from, what your struggles have been, what are your aspirations. So I usually tell students to start from where your life starts, like where did you go for the schooling, how did you went to the university, who was the person in the family who was supporting you, what hardship you have faced, and then how well did you do in the university or in the college, and what hardships were there which you had to overcome, and how did you overcome that, and how it has changed you. For example, if you have come from a very far-flung area जहाँ पे आपकी access ही नहीं थी internet में, तो आपने किस तरह से ये manage किया? So you came to a very advanced, जो भी पाकिस्तान का ज़्यादा advanced city है, आप वहाँ तक आए और आपने सबसे अच्छी university में admission लिया, and now you're applying for a university abroad. And then talk about your academic excellence as well. If you have done any internship, if you have done any project, if you have published a paper, something like that. So, I mean, explain your personality in detail, not only just the academic one, but extracurricular one as well. If you were good in a sport, you were part of a team in the school or in the college, you presented a poster somewhere, you participated in a conference, or you had a hobby and how that hobby helped the society and stuff. So all these things should be there in a personal statement. And in the end, always end the personal statement with what are your aspirations. Means where you want to be, where you want to go in next 5 years, what you want to ultimately do. You want to help your family, you want to help the girls in your village to, be a role model for them so that they can learn from you and go to university as well. So take your time to write about your personal statement, because that personal statement will help you in applying in multiple universities and at multiple scholarships. Okay? Because they need to see why they should choose you. Okay? For admission or for scholarship. So give them multiple reasons that, okay, I'm good at this and this and this. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, if someone is applying for let's say MS scholarship, तो minimum CGPA जो हमारा graduation का या BS का होगा वो कितना होना चाहिए?
It's very hard to say what should be the minimum or what should be the maximum. Okay. Because again, it will depend which university you're applying and which program you're applying. Which programs होंगे जहाँ पे probably 2 will also be a good one, और कुछ होंगे कि जहाँ पे आप 3.7 के साथ भी शायद struggle करें. So इसको generalize करना बहुत मुश्किल है. I won't be able to tell you. लेकिन as a rule of thumb, if you are above than the 75% marks, that's considered a good one. Okay? Below 75% is considered that student is average, and you have to be above average to because you have to understand that whatever scholarship or admissions are, there are plenty of applications there. So you'll have to see how your application stands out. the grade is the first thing they're gonna look at. But again, don't lose heart, or because sometimes things are not in our control, and some circumstances are in a way that we cannot, perform that very well. Don't lose heart. There's always a way out, and there'll always be some institute or university which will be happy to take you, or a different program for which you'll be eligible, and they'll be able to take you. But again, as a rule of thumb, 75 below, more than as जैसे जैसे आप 75 से ऊपर जाते हैं, आपके chances बढ़ते जाते हैं.
Okay, ma'am. Someone is asking, grammar command is not enough for IELTS. Is it necessary that you should have good grammar skills?
Yes, of course. Grammar skill अगर आपकी नहीं अच्छी होगी, लेकिन तो आप नहीं, ना तो आप ये कि आप बहुत अच्छा लिख पाओगे जो उनका राइटिंग वाला है, नीदर ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम आपको होगी, और जो मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, मोस्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स स्ट्रगल विद द स्पीकिंग पार्ट, जहाँ पे आपको फ्लुएंटली बोलना पड़ता है. उसकी वजह यह है कि इंग्लिश चूँकि हमारी फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज नहीं है, तो वी थिंक इन उर्दू एंड देन वी ट्रांसलेट दैट इन इंग्लिश एंड देन वी स्पीक. सो इट टेक्स टाइम. और जो स्पीकिंग है, इट्स वेरी, द वे द टेस्ट हैज़ बीन डिजाइन्ड इज वेरी क्लेवर. जो स्पीकिंग है उसमें यू हैव टू हैव not only the good grammar but also good vocabulary and sentence making ability, because sometimes you're explaining things for the future, sometimes you're explaining things from the past, sometimes you're talking about the current situation, so you have to switch back and forth in the past, present, future. So yes, no, absolutely, grammar agar achhi nahi hai, no, I don't think so the IELTS will work for you. And again, and also the vocabulary. So उसके लिए ये है कि आपको थोड़ा सा reading practice will help you. For example, just reading the English newspaper will help you a lot, because not only you learn the sentence, how the good sentence is being made, but also you will learn a lot about the vocabulary. आप बहुत से नए words भी सीखोगे. Watching movies should also help you, because they are in English and you can see. लेकिन watching movie में ये है कि sometimes they use slang and then sometimes their language is not a proper one. जो IELTS है या TOEFL है, और जो या अगर GRE भी है, तो उसमें आपको proper textbook kind of English use करनी है. तो उसके लिए बेहतर है, सबसे आसान चीज़ है newspaper. Read the newspaper because one, they are not boring, because they are about current affairs, they are about sports, showbiz or whatever, fashion वगैरह जो बच्चों को interest होता है इन चीज़ों का, आप उन टॉपिक्स के ऊपर आप पढ़ें, and they will increase your vocabulary and they will also increase your sentence making capacity and ability. So yes, grammar is crucial.
And ma'am, what about fluency? Obviously, we are not natives. We can't speak like natives.
No, so, obviously, yeah, they take into account that this is our second language. This is not our first language, okay? But the point they want to see is that, are you able to express yourself well enough for others to understand? For example, when I went for my IELTS, they asked me कि आप Pakistani movies के बारे में बताओ. I'm not a good movie person, but I was able to explain that, okay, this is not a difficult topic. It's a very easy topic. So that's the way they want to assess us. So they want to see us कि क्या हम everyday जो conversation है उसमें हम अपना point of view express कर पाते हैं, because that's very crucial when you are studying there. If you are unable to ask a question, if you are unable to discuss with your fellows, if you are unable to communicate with your teacher, then it's going to be a very difficult situation, not only for you but for them as well. Because obviously जब आप उनके student बन जाते हो तो फिर आप उस university को present कर रहे हो ना. So they make sure that their students are, trained enough. And language is the first thing. If you don't understand their language, it will be very hard. It will be very hard. But चूँकि हम यहाँ पे बहुत early years से ही English पढ़ना शुरू कर देते हैं, तो most of the time जो बच्चे हैं उनकी English is good enough. A little bit practice and you are good. ठीक है?
Okay, ma'am. So my next question is that IELTS score help us to take scholarship. I mean, if someone academic record is not too good and someone's very good in English, so can it help us?
नहीं, उसमें ये है कि आपका एकेडमिक और IELTS दोनों ही अच्छे होने चाहिए. ओके, if your academic record is not ये हो सकता है कि if your academic record is average and your IELTS is very good, they'll consider you. Okay, because they think that okay, this person will understand the language and everything, and we'll just have to teach her better. Because if you can express and you can understand the other language and you can communicate in other language, that is a very good ability for that person. So जो IELTS है या GRE है इसके बारे में very clear, they do not compensate your grades. वो आपके grades compensate नहीं करते. Grades आपके अच्छे होने चाहिए और उसके on top of that, if you have a good GRE or IELTS score, they will understand that okay, this student is not only good in studies, it knows our language and it can communicate in another language as well. So it is that's a skill of that person. So they will just enhance they will just increase the chances of your success for your application. But no, IELTS and GRE are not compensating your grade scores. They will help you, but आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि आप grade आपके बिल्कुल ही CGPA और वगैरह बहुत कम है, लेकिन IELTS का स्कोर बहुत अच्छा है. So no.
Okay, ma'am. And someone is asking, IELTS is necessary for all European countries?
It's necessary for UK and the other European countries. Sometimes they ask for that, but because when they don't, like for example, in France, the language is French, but they know that most of the world, the French is not a common language, but English is. So sometimes they ask you to just provide the IELTS score, which tells them that how good you are in a second language. And from there, they assess that whether you'll be able to learn the French or not. But I think UK में तो must है. IELTS के बगैर आप UK में तो admission नहीं मिलेगा. उसमें score vary कर सकता है हर university का, लेकिन IELTS provide करना. The other European countries, again, उसमें भी university wise vary करेगा. But as far as I know, the good universities, they do ask for IELTS at some point. Maybe some French university won't, probably ना पूछें, German maybe, लेकिन ये university wise vary करना पड़ेगा, आपको देखना पड़ेगा. But other than UK में तो must है, लेकिन बाकी European countries में कुछ universities की exception होगी जो शायद IELTS भी ना माने. But then they ask you to do the language course. जैसे France अगर आप जाना चाह रहे हो, you'll have to do a French language course, because again, if you don't know French, you won't be able to even buy the food over there. So how would you survive? So that would be a crucial thing. So yeah, UK में तो must है. बाकी यूरोप में exceptions होंगी जहाँ पे आप without GRE, without IELTS भी जा सकते हैं.
Okay, ma'am. मैम ये personal statement में हमारा वो plagiarism check करते हैं, like कि हम plagiarized content लिख सकते हैं या नहीं?
I think everybody has their different story. ठीक है, everybody went to a different school, they had different phases of life and everything. So उसमें जितनी original हो, क्योंकि देखिए जो लोग इसको read करेंगे, they have read so many multiple personal statements, so they can easily tell कि अगर एक बच्चा MS के लिए apply कर रहा है और BS level पे है, तो वो इतनी complicated language नहीं लिख सकता. So जो प्रोफेशनल लैंग्वेज है, या आपकी कोशिश है कि कहीं से नेट से ढूंढ के कॉपी पेस्ट करके बना लें उस पर कुछ, वो दिख जाता है, वो पता चल जाता है. एंड दैट्स गोना लीव सच अ बैड इंप्रेशन कि मैं आपको बता नहीं सकती. बट इफ यू कांट इवन टेल अबाउट योरसेल्फ इन योर ओन वर्ड्स, तो फिर बाकी सब तो चीज़ें छोड़ लो. ठीक है, सो प्लीज़ डोंट डू दैट. हाँ, आप हेल्प ज़रूर लें ऑनलाइन मटेरियल से, ज़रूर ऑनलाइन जो अवेलेबल हैं पर्सनल स्टेटमेंट्स, उनको रीड करें, देखें उन्होंने कहाँ कैसे स्टार्ट किया है, मिडल पार्ट कैसे था, एंड पे क्या लिखा है, उन्होंने अपनी इंस्पिरेशन के बारे में क्या बताया है, अपनी फ्यूचर प्लान्स के बारे में क्या बताया. डू लुक फॉर दैट, बट प्लीज डू नॉट कॉपी पेस्ट दैट. वो एक सेकेंड में पता चल जाता है कि ये इसकी अपनी लैंग्वेज नहीं है, ये इसके अपने वर्ड्स नहीं है. एंड देन वो तो वहीं पे चीज़ केस क्लोज हो जाएगा कि इफ ही कांट इवन एक्सप्रेस हिमसेल्फ or herself in their own words, तो फिर क्या है? अब उसके लिए बहुत आसान तरीका है जो कि मैं खुद भी यूज़ करती हूँ sometimes. When you want to make a nice sentence, right? अभी वो ज़हन में नहीं आ रहा, बहुत simple sentence आ रहा है, लेकिन you want to make it a more, sophisticated one. So then you can look for certain synonyms of certain words कि इसका structure में कैसे change करें. But please, you keep it as personal as possible. That will be, जितना आप इसको personal रखेंगे उतना ही impressive होगा. जितना आप इसमें अपनी personal struggles, अपनी personal aspirations डालेंगे, the more they know about you, the more clear they will be that whether we should take this student or not. Okay, so please don't copy paste the personal statement. Don't copy paste anything rather. But personal statement तो बिल्कुल नहीं, because वो personal statement ही क्या हुई अगर आपने किसी और की लिखी हो.
Okay. Okay, ma'am, I think we are done.
Okay.
So basically we have covered all the important questions जिसमें हम confuse होते हैं, and we are always looking for an expert कि वो हमें बताए और हमारी queries को जो है वो ख़त्म करे. So thank you so much, Dr. Ramla. आपने
thank you so very much. Or actually, when I talk to Jimmy, I know because when I'm in the university, so most of the students come to me for this very purpose. So I will be talking to Jimmy, and probably what I'm thinking is that we start something where we provide this kind of information and help in coaching and stuff or to the students on regular basis. So once I'll talk to Junaid, and once we come up with this plan, we'll share with the students. So they have a platform where they can come and bring their questions, and whatever help they need, we can provide them.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. You explained everything very beautifully. And for those who joined us, thank you for listening, for your attention, and most importantly, for giving your time and making your presence. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so very much.
Best of luck. Inshallah, see you tomorrow. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.